And hello everyone, and welcome to our second episode of Clutter Talk Live. And as you'll notice, we are actually going live on Facebook because it's not working on YouTube this week, so there we go. But thankfully we have another option, and it will be recorded too. So in this episode, we of Thinking Global Acting Local, we are going to welcome Cathi Nelson, who is the author of Photo Organising Made Easy, and Clara, Elaine and I are really excited to have her on board for this week on Facebook. So I am going to ask if Clara and Elaine can turn their videos on and come in and say hello. Hello, Clara of Joy of Space, and hello, Elaine of Clear Mountain. Wow, can I just say that was a stressful moment. Elaine, are we live on my news feed on Facebook?
You are on my screen. You are live on Facebook.
Okay, fantastic. If anybody wants to make any comments on my Facebook, it's personal one, Facebook Zamira Moffat, then please do. And if people could maybe be kind of to let people know who aren't on Facebook that it will be recorded too, and it will be shared onto our YouTube channel later. So, oh my goodness, it's so good to see you both. How are you both? How are you both? So, Clara, we've been thinking of you because we know you're still sort of coming through long COVID. So first off to you, how have you been and how are you?
Good, thank you. Yes, just been having a balance of activity and just relaxation. I worked with a client last week on a kitchen mini makeover virtual session, so I've been inspired by that and by last week's question on food storage. So I've been enjoying decluttering and then looking at my storage and how I'm using it. So the top tip we usually give is don't buy any storage until you've decluttered, so you know what you have and the space you want to use it in. So I've been to pick up storage, a new set of shelving, which I'm thrilled about.
And have either of you, because I know at the beginning of when lockdown, people were into kind of hoarding, or they would buy too much, and I think there was a question coming through as well last week about how can you tell if you're hoarding or not. Do either of you have any sort of top tips on that question?
If the space that you have, if you have more than the space you've got allocated for it, then that tips over into having too much. For example, I was lucky during lockdown, I didn't go through the toilet roll buying panic because I had already decided environmentally I was going to go with having it delivered by a company called, excuse the name, but who gives a crap? So I had allocated a shelf in my bathroom, and then they sent me a complimentary box as well as my usual order, and there's about 40 rolls per box, by which point I instantly had too much. So I was actually giving toilet roll away during the first lockdown. So for me, I'd allocated a space. If the space you have, you've got overflow, then you've got too much.
Yeah, I think they're great, that company Who Gives a Crap, and it's all made from bamboo, isn't it? And you get it and they have these wonderful sense of humour together with eco principles, and it's great. Yeah,
not
Elaine.
The softest in the
and
world.
It's soft, yeah.
It's not the softest, but then I don't want to have 3-ply quilted. I'm not bothered about that.
Well, great to have you in the Zoom living room, Clara. And as we say on Clutter Talk, you know, from our home to yours, and we're all really, really pleased to have everybody. And please do ask us questions on whatever platform you can find us on at the moment. We'd love to take questions that you have through. And Elaine is busy letting people know, I think, that we're on Facebook now and not on YouTube. Thank you, Elaine. Do you have a moment to just tell us how you've been?
Yeah, I'm okay. I was a bit disappointed about the Scottish announcement yesterday about sort of letting us out a little bit of lockdown, but I'm glad to hear that the numbers are going down. I'm glad to hear that a lot of people that I know have had their vaccinations, and we just have to sit it out now. So that was a little bit disappointing, but we're near the end now. We hope that we can start coming out of this sensibly. So that was the first thing. Secondly, I've been quite busy this week. I've done a few virtual sessions. One of the clients is a client that Clara and I share, so we've done that virtual one. And I'm helping a client to move house at the moment. And I have another client moving house in a couple of weeks. So these are essential decluttering or organising projects that legally we're allowed to help with. So just dealing with them just now. And also, I've got my own decluttering project going on. I am decluttering my loft. Yep, getting rid of it. Getting rid of the stuff.
And how is that for you, Elaine? Like on a busman's holiday?
Well, it has to be done. I've got the electricians coming and they need into the floor. So basically, we've got to get the stuff off the floor. So, it was a little bit up there. I mean, it's not overly stuffed with stuff, but it still has got stuff, in it. And because we're talking about photo organising, I have to show you a photograph I found of my beautiful boys who are now adults and probably are a wee bit shocked about what I found. But I found this fantastic photograph of my boys. So the advantages of decluttering your loft are that you can get a look at all the different things that you have missed for quite a long time. So,
Elaine, do you have any top tips for people who might be thinking about decluttering their loft space?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a sort of sequence to it, and what I've done is I've started at the hatch where you go up, and I've just started to work slowly around the loft, and obviously you need a helper. And Mr. McKinley is the helper. He is at the bottom of the stairs, and I am bagging things upstairs that I don't want, and then I'm passing them down to him, and he is putting them into space for them going out. But there is a system that I am using, and it's starting one, and we are doing it in stages because actually up in the loft, you're bending a lot, and you're doing that. It's quite taxing on your body. So we're doing it in 2-hour stints. So after this, I've got another 2 hours to go up and do my next 2 hours. Before the men come to do the electrics. So I would start in one area and slowly work around and use the packaging or the boxes, etc., that you empty as your next bit of storage in the next bit. So it's working well.
Thank you.
No
and how have you been, Zem?
I've been all right, aside from the week-long anxiety of, are we going to get this live or not? So that, to be fair, that has been my main fear for the past week. But other than that, I've been having quite a lot. I've been discovering my creative side. So I did I'm quite pleased with this. I did a wee painting of some flowers that thank you very much, that my dad gave my mum for Valentine's. And so I'm actually rediscovering quite a lot of creativity and be doing singing, trying to learn the cup song. I don't know if anyone knows the cup song, and trying to sort of keep everybody jolly, really. But talking of creativity, because I think that's one of my top tips for like how to help people declutter and what you do and what you can do with photographs. So the theme for today is photographs and images and what we can do. And my dad's still got, and actually my mum has, when I was I don't know, 12 or 13 or something like that, I made them address books with photos of like their photos and families. And so this is probably like a good near 30 years old now.
I love the fashion, the clothing.
Yeah, so you've got all of that, and Dad's still got it with, and so it's his, his address book, and so I'd be interested to know sort of today, like what ideas Cathy's got, and what other ideas, how you can reuse photographs. And I was always really into montages, but it takes time, and so finally through COVID I have this time to do some more sort of photo work. Clara?
Can I share as well? This is my Valentines from my kids, and they've been using photos. I love everything about you, especially you're amazing. All of your layers of love, my layers of love. Happy Valentine's Day from Jack. So they went ahead and used photos, and this is my daughter calls me Clara Mum, and that's hers. I couldn't even begin to read that out quickly. And another one. So that's another way that you can enjoy using photos. That's from a long time ago. But I have actually separated out photos and sent them in cards with like little love cards to friends and family. So that's another way that you can use photos.
I was going to say, so these are our ideas, ladies. Yes. But why don't we introduce the professional who's been at it? Who maybe, and if anyone else has any other ideas, please just pop them. I don't care. Pop them on my personal Facebook account or whatever, and then we'll message and we'll get some chat going. Because last week we felt a bit lonely when we didn't we? We felt a bit lonely when we didn't have messages in. So however you can reach us by telepathy or whatever, please do. I'm going to share screen now to Cathi Nelson's website, and Elaine, would you do the honours of introducing her?
Okay, so we have Cathi Nelson, who is the founder of the Photo Managers, which is an organisation and a group of photo organisers that have come together under the banner of the Photo Managers. And Cathi is coming to us today from the USA. So this is our Thinking Global, Acting Local. So we're so pleased. Thank you, Cathi, for joining us. And before we go to Cathi, just to remind us that you're seeing Dr. Zem Moffat on the screen from Insightful Moves, Elaine McKinley of Clear Mountain, and Clara Moore of Joy of Space. And we are all professional organisers and members of ABTO, the Association of Professional Declutterers and Organisers. And Zem has Cathy's website up on the screen just now, and she has a great book, which I have, and I have shared on Instagram actually this week, about organising your photographs. So over to Cathi, I think, to help us to organise our photographs.
Yeah.
It's easy. No worries.
Welcome, Cathi. I'm so excited. So apologies if like nothing but nonsense comes out of my mouth as I just go, I've got Cathi on screen. And she's calling from Connecticut on the east coast of the US of A. So welcome. Welcome to our Zoom living room. We're absolutely delighted. So first off, let's go for the first question. How did you get into photo organising?
I know. Let's see. I'll make that as short of an answer as I can. I have always loved telling stories with photos. From a small child, I remember looking at photos, loving to look at the photos that my parents had, and then getting my first camera and taking photos in college and all of those experiences. And when my son was born, I was in advertising and sales through my 20s. And when my son was born through adoption, I wanted to create a life book for him, they're called, where you document the story of how I wanted to be able to tell stories with photos. And I discovered scrapbooking, which was an ability to write stories next to photos, which wasn't done that much until it became a real craft hobby here I think all over the world, but definitely a big way in the US through the 80s, through the 90s and early 2000s. But then when people switched to digital photography, I noticed that they weren't printing their photos anymore, right? We were just, you have all your photos are suddenly on these little memory cards and you can take as many photos as you want. And people were asking me to help them get their photos from their memory cards to their computers, because it was before we were using this as our point and shoot camera. And so a friend of mine said, can you help me? And I said, sure. She said, what do you charge? And I said, I don't charge anything. And she said, that's crazy. Professional organizers charge people when they help. And I finally agreed. And I got to her house, and not only did she have thousands, and now at this point it would be hundreds of thousands of digital images stored in multiple places. She had pulled out all the boxes of photos she had inherited because her parents had passed away. She was one of 4 children. She said she was the one who must have raised her hand, said, I'll take all that and do something with it. Of course, she hadn't, and she felt terribly guilty. and her children were in the ages of high school and college. So their baby photos and everything were all analog photos, but they were switching to digital. And she just said, Cathi, I don't care how long it takes, but I'm positive there's hundreds of other Marias just like me out there who need help with this. And so I call that my light bulb moment. I started marketing myself as a photo. I use the word photo organizing because for me, it's always been about the stories and capturing the memories that matter, leaving a legacy. And if you're unorganized, it's like a book, right? You can't write a narrative with everything all jumbled together. That's the key to me, and it's still the heart of, I think, what we all believe in, and why you're asking this question in the first place about what do I do with my photos, right? You always have to think about the why. How's that for an answer? A quick answer off the top of my head.
That is a great answer, and I love the fact that you talked about adopting and that you thought of having that as your story. And I recently saw a clip of someone talking to their daughter they adopted, and she had said something about her heart fell in love with her mum, her adoptive mum, and it's such a beautiful way to share that story.
Yeah. And that idea to share that came from my nephew. My sister had just had a baby, and he loved the story. My mom, like how she had eaten Chinese food, right? That she was in labor, or she was, late, and then the rush to the hospital. And he just, his little face at like 2, 3, 4 wanted that story over and over. And I thought every child wants these stories. It's right. It's about the stories that matter in our lives, that those narratives that we tell, and how do we capture those and save those into the future. And that's a big piece.
I'd be interested to hear, do you find yourself working with people with memory conditions, whether that's through head injuries or Alzheimer's or cerebral vascular disease? Because I know when I worked in hospitals, we had life storybook work we did with clients as an occupational therapist. Is that a big part of your work?
Right. So we have, so then what I ended up doing is switching from me doing it. As people kept finding me, they said, can you teach me how to do it? I eventually created an association, a community, the photo managers of, now we have, 750 or so members all over the world, where I teach and support them in building their own entrepreneurial businesses doing this. And so it runs the gamut from, people who only work with moms with digital photos all the way to quite a bit in the memory care world, because it's so critically important. And the key is trying to get the message out to the families before the memory loss begins. Yeah. And trying to get these and to realize the importance of doing this, a year or two before that process. But at any point, and quite frequently, our members will get calls for help when somebody passes away, because many times at a funeral, you love those video montages and things like that tell a story of a person's family life. And so in some ways it's better to do that beforehand, because then it becomes a time crunch and you're rushing and you only have maybe 48 hours. And so if people can start thinking about that sooner than later, it's very meaningful and significant work that people do around photos.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Cathi, because as I've just explained, I'm decluttering my loft at the moment, and I am the person in the family who has taken the whole family's photographs, Yeah. And at the first lockdown here, I sat and I went through quite a lot of old photographs of my parents, and I made up small pockets of, from them getting engaged right through. And then I made up a couple of books of photographs like that, which was great because they actually sit on my on my coffee table, and then with the hope that anybody can pick them up and quickly flick through. Because the problem is that them being in the loft, there's all these memories up there, but nobody can see them. So this is a really important question, I think, that we ask people when we go in and we are decluttering lofts. What are we going to do with your photographs? So we need to know proper ways of storing them and also showing them to people. So yeah, great.
I think that's a really valid point you make there, Elaine. It's how we store our photos, where we store them, and do we have access? For me, being a child of the 70s, my experience was the small square photos with the white borders, and my mum kept them in a Dutch blue and white ceramic biscuit jar, and that was a lovely part of my childhood. My sister and I taking out the photos and enjoying them. So I think that's a really good point you've brought up there.
And you know what's amazing is, think about the fact that you just described where they were, right? So that's that memory piece to it. I think that nostalgic, that I can describe where the photos were. This little, it was not actually, I don't know, it was a little stand, and they were all it was like went around in a circle. I mean, I can still in my mind, like it's yesterday, picture where that was on the end table in my family home, and going and sitting there more than I, like you pictured them in that tin.
Yeah.
And so I think the problem today is, though, what's happening is they say the most photographed generation in history has the least access to their photos. And we call the coming digital dark age, because with all our photos captured on these devices and just uploaded, in the mix of all the selfies. I mean, I'm sure if I asked everybody right now to pull out your phone or your camera roll and look on your camera roll, how many in the last 20 shots you took, maybe how many were actually photos, a photograph, and how many were screenshot. I mean, it's amazing myself, right? I have lots of screenshots, or, a picture of what I'm eating for dinner. I think this morning I was supposed to be at the gym. I was joking. I ended up getting up late, and I sent my trainer a picture of my cup of coffee, right? I'm like, this is much I'm having this great cup of coffee instead of being at the gym. Well, if I don't delete that photo, that's going into my iCloud account, and that's going to be like saved 100 years from now, people are going to see that photo, but what is that, right? So that's a big part of this problem.
Yeah. And what sort of advice would you give people to maybe an easy way to start sorting their photographs? I mean, is there an easy way to start sorting your photographs?
Yeah, we had a question coming in from Susan in Glasgow. How do we make a start with hard copy photos and negatives?
I was going to start with that. That's in some ways easier than the digital at first. So yes, there's the first thing is that what you want to do is, we call it, there's a 5-step process we recommend. The first is know your why. Think about what is it that you want to accomplish. Do you want to pass down some legacy stories? Do you want just, kind of connect with that why, because that'll keep you motivated as you get a little overwhelmed in the process, and you got to go back to your why. The second is, we call it the hunt and gather stage. If you want to gather everything into one place so you can kind of get an overview of the scope of the problem that you have. So if you set up like a little side table, or just start going on this, because you probably have photos in your attic, like you mentioned, in your loft. Here in Connecticut, we would have them in our basements. Yeah. Maybe you have them in drawers. I mean, it's amazing the places they ended up, those printed photos, negatives. And very important, if you took home movies, VCR tapes, those little camcorder tapes, children's artwork, letters, right? They're probably all in very similar places together. And then take an inventory to get an idea of the scope of the problem. 1 inch of photos, I think an inch is usually about 300 printed photos, to kind of give you like a little idea.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of helpful. And then we recommend, the next step is the ABCs of photo organizing, is a little acronym I came up to help people get through this process, right? Should I just jump in and tell you what that is? Do you want me to keep going? Okay. Yeah. And if I talk too fast, slow me down, because I'm a fast talker. I get excited. So that you want to ask yourself the question, when you're going through photos, is this an A photo? What we mean by that is this archival quality, album worthy? Is this a photo you really want to experience and have access to into the future? Now, that can be a hard question to ask, right? Because sometimes maybe you took like 5 group photos because you're waiting to see if somebody's eyes are open correctly, or the smile. Those can be the B photos, right? So those can go back in a box. Those are the ones that you can't bring yourself to throw away. So you put them in a pile, and those are your B photos. Your C photos is, yes, you can throw them in the can. So you can throw your photos away. And that's, for some reason, I've still not ever come up with it'd be interesting, Zed, you might know, maybe more psychologically, what is it about the idea of throwing photos away? It's just something that I think we feel like we're throwing away a memory. What if I lose that? I never see it again. There's all this hesitation. But so to make that easier, we recommend you throw away all your blur, start with just the blurry, the duds of shoes. Like people save those, and usually they all got doubles, right? I don't know, in Scotland, did you all get double exposures at one time? And we went from one to doubles. In the US here.
Yeah, and there was a time when you could get doubles and then you could get prints with little ones on and you could split them up. And
Right.
there's lots of different options.
It's crazy, right? So everybody, most people have those, so get rid of the doubles. And then we recommend scenery shots. So the reason why I recommend that is, there's a beautiful sunset. Fortunately, we're blessed enough that the sun will set again. And so in that moment, when you're taking that beautiful sunset, you are capturing a moment, but you really don't need to save that into the future. Also a lot of travel scenery shots. I always kind of joke the Grand Canyon, or you can say, if you went to Rome or something, the Colosseum, it probably will not look that different 100 years from now. Maybe save one photo from that experience, or two or three, but not all of the photos that you took on those travel trips, because you're curating your collection down to the S. Does it tell a story? If it tells a story, then it becomes an A photo. And those are the ones you want to digitize. If you digitize that entire messy collection of photos that you've gathered, you're just going to recreate for yourself the same mess digitally that you have in those printed photos. And I use, and people always cringe, but I say that I use this rule because I know people are not going to live by it totally, is the 80-20 rule. You want to eliminate 80% and keep 20%. So if you kind of, you can work with that, you're going to be much happier with that photo collection that you have, that because you're going to have the photos that you really want. And I'm sure you did a version of this as you went through your parents' life and things. You had to make choices about what ones you're going to keep and put in that little album on the coffee table. You couldn't have put all of them in there because it's not interesting. So then the last piece is, people tend to think they have to organize chronologically, but I love to say this. We live in chronological time. For me, it's Wednesday morning. For you, it's Wednesday afternoon, right? Tomorrow's Thursday, then it's going to be Friday. But we remember thematically. I'm thinking right now thematically, it was a year ago in March. It was a year ago this week that I got a text from somebody. I was at the biggest genealogy conference in the world. It was 30,000 people. And one of our members said, "What are you going to do about conference in April with the coronavirus?" I don't even know if she called it the coronavirus. I can't find that text. But I remember I was like, what is she talking about? Like, what virus, right? So I remember and then I remember the smell that we had a beautiful spring as we all had to go into lockdown. And I just remember these long walks and everybody in the neighborhood, seeing so many people walking and no planes overhead, right? I'm thinking of a theme. I don't need to organize my photos if I'm going to tell that story of the pandemic by, on March, we went into lockdown, on April, I took a walk at the golf course, right? It's the theme of what happened. And then we were wearing masks. Here's my 90-year-old mother in a mask. Here's my kids in masks. That's the story that matters, that we want to remember. So you can organize your photos thematically. Are you a family that loved to travel? Are you a family that loved, to get together and have parties? Are you a family that celebrated holidays? There's so many. Do you love sports? Were you a family that was into theater? And you can organize your photos thematically. You can certainly do them chronologically, but if you kept them in boxes and things and you can't remember, is Johnny 5 in this picture? Or is he 7? Or was this Christmas? And then you get frozen in indecision because you think you're doing something wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. Because again, it's the memories and it's the stories that we're caring about, not necessarily what happened in chronological time order perfectly.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's a really good advice for everybody, taking it forward. And obviously in Abto, we have a few photo organisers as part of their business. So we've got Mel Carruthers of More Organised down in the Borders, and then we've got Rosie Barron of the Tidy Coup up north, and I'm not sure in the Central Belt if we've got anybody here. But I mean, this is a really nice and a really interesting topic for us as organisers to take to our clients to say, there are people out there who can help you decide, or not decide, but give you key points that how you can organize your photos.
Elaine, is this my cue to share the website?
Well, yes, Zen, if you're on the ball.
I thought that was my cue. I'm still trying to let people know where we are, that people can find me on my live Facebook stream. So apologies for being slightly distracted, but I heard that and I was like, it would be really helpful if we shared Cathy's association's new website. Now, you told us that last year it changed its name and it is now, don't tell me, your photo managers. And you are the founder of the original association, but it is now called Photo Managers, which just seemed a little bit shorter and neater and tighter, really. And
it was a mouthful. We were the Association of Personal Photo Organizers. Yeah. By the time I got those words out, most people were no longer listening.
Exactly. So I am now going to share the website, and there are, although started in the US, they now have sites around the world, and you can find a good handful of photo organisers in the UK. So I'm going to do that now. But actually, I think it's lovely what we're saying about thematically. That really stuck with me, how to organise photos thematically, and the idea of kind of having that 5-stage plan and where do you start, like if you've got so many. And I think, I don't know if you said it just now, but before I remember you saying when I met you originally at the one of the conferences in London that, you know, photo organisers, they would charge by weight, you know, by the amount and the inches. I mean, it's physical weight. And you were asking me, I think, and I didn't answer, like, what is it about that kind of emotional attachment to photographs? And I think there is the emotional attachment, but also there's the environmental attachment. Like, how do we let go of something which we know is a chemical? It's not actually good. And there is that slight sense of dis-ease as like, do I just put them in the bin? But really, the advice is actually, you kind of have to. I think, Cathy, is that the advice?
Yeah, I did a little research. I'm just going to look quick to see if somebody answered I did a little
check
research.
that subject whilst I share the screen thing.
Let me just see quickly what.
Yeah, you go. You go, and I'm going to share your association screen.
Yeah. You know, sometimes people, I was just looking quickly to see what I asked that question. So they are not, because of the chemicals that were used on the photos, they're not recyclable or negatives, because they were, you know, there was that chemical on it to keep them, like if water beads off it and things. But they are safe to throw in the trash, but a lot of people, you can do repurposing where people will, you can donate photos, you can repurpose them in different ways of making like art projects and things. You can shred the photos, you know, to get them, you know, to a smaller thing. But unfortunately, there isn't and then I did do a little research here in I just Googled it, and there was a company that said they could take your old photos and recycle them. But that would be you might have to look for somebody who might have the chemical process, but it's not, you wouldn't put them in your traditional recyclable trash. So that's part of it. So there's our website.
Yeah, and I think that's what when we're talking about thinking global, acting local, we're looking to connect people with things that they can do locally, you know. So we might have to investigate a little bit about Scotland, about where, you know, is there a company like that who could take some of the photographs and dispose of them properly? So we might be asking our ABTO colleagues about that who do the photo organising.
But
yeah, so I'm just on the website at the moment, and I found you can find photo managers. So I'm going to click on country, and go to the UK.
Okay, cool.
Here we go. So for those of you watching from the UK, we have Ian Killick of Photo Organised in Somerset, and we have Amanda Littlecott of Twickenham, and Graham Rickett, Henley-on-Thames. So and there's our Mel. There's our Mel of
and if you click into her name,
in Scotland.
If you click on her name, then that'll take you to her main page where a link to her website is as well. Right, so you can see her Instagram.
That's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is these members are certified. So we have a professional certification program that we have to really elevate in the confidence level that when you're hiring a professional, you know that they've been vetted by us. So to be certified, they go through best practices. It's a training program, you know, with the different modules on digital photo organizing, printed, client relations, a very strong code of ethics, They have to complete a project, they submit it to us, we review it, and we also review their references. So you can have a high level of confidence that when you hire a pro from our website, they're certified members, and people are working towards certification a lot of times too. It takes a while when they join. And so I just want to make sure that, so those members in the UK and the Netherlands and growing throughout the world, like I said, Australia, and we just had a new member just join from Switzerland, Poland, Poland yesterday. Yesterday he was from, I think it's a he, from Poland. So it's amazing how, because this is a worldwide problem and people, and it's a profession that didn't exist 11 years ago. There were some people doing some forms of this, but there was nobody in a professional way. Even the declutterers weren't really talking about photos. That's why when I came to the UK, it was like a light bulb moment. For a lot of times declutterers would say, well, we'll deal with the photos later, because it is a different skill set almost. It takes more time. It's a different kind of project. But now, especially again, with the way the digital is going, it's just becoming an explosive need in terms of people need help.
Yeah.
I think there's two interesting things. Elaine, did I see, if we got a question coming in? You just
Yeah,
looked.
yeah. It's just that somebody's asking, what about burning them? Which is the first question. And the second thing that Jocelyn has actually posted up here is, what about even offering them to a local museum or schools or old people's homes, or, you know, for artwork and things like that? So, you know, there are other avenues, I guess, that we can go down possibly with, if you've got excessive photographs.
Especially if they're old, you know, those old photos of old cars, or maybe what your community looked like. You may not think a picture of your main street is that interesting from like the 1960s or something, but from a historical society, you know, everything has changed. So there is an interest level usually there. I don't think burning, I'm not sure what the chemicals that they would release into the air, but I usually just tend not to think burning is ever a good idea. So I would think not.
I was going to say that you could also enjoy them as a family. I know that last year when we were allowed to meet up in a back garden, we've got a lot of May, July and August family birthdays. So when we were allowed to be socially distanced in the back garden, we went to my mum's and we were doing Swedish death clearing. So we had all the photos gathered. And it was a lovely afternoon, just passing around photos and talking about them. And my children took a bundle and they kept most of them for about 6 months, at which point they maybe shredded 90% of the ones they kept and just kept like a handful of the ones that really touched them. But it brought up amazing conversations and memories, because you're right. I think family groups do tend to thematically, ours involves a lot of travel and a lot of family celebrations. That's when photos tend to get taken in our family. But it can help you actually just realize things about family members when people are alive and you can enjoy them. My mum has an incredibly unusual and not ladylike way of sitting, with one knee up and the other leg out in front. And there were hundreds of photos of her sitting like that, and we looked over and that's how she was sitting, with one leg splayed and the other one in front. So if you're not ready to involve a photo organizer, you can still enjoy those times with your family members.
Right. And that's a wonderful, and then who knows, maybe a grandbaby will come along someday, and will be sitting there as a teenager, and you'll be like, oh, you're sitting just like your grandma. You know, I mean, it's just, those are the things that's what photos and videos, and that's what we're talking about here. Because otherwise it's an overwhelming project. It seems too daunting, but really, if that's when we go back to the why. You know, why are we doing this? Why do we take photos? If you think about that natural instinct that we all have to grab a camera or take it's that I believe we're wired as humans to be storytellers. It's part of our DNA. I think all of us have a desire in all cultures to tell stories, and the camera as what has allowed us to do that visually.
I completely agree. And my training is in filmmaking. So those of you wondering if I'm a medical doctor, I'm not. I'm a doctor of visual anthropology, which is documentary filmmaking. And so I would approach a house like you edit a film. Like my PhD film was 86 hours that I had to get down to an hour. And how do you select and choose the right shot. And I remember reading in a book about documentary filmmaking this paragraph that said it's like picking a leaf up off the forest floor, where the leaf speaks for the whole forest. Ooh. So you pick up a leaf, you go for a walk, you pick up one leaf, and it reminds you of the walk. So when I go through my photos, I go, what is the one photo that speaks to the event, that really gives me that feeling? And that helps me let go of the others. But it can be hard and tricky, and it can take time, but it's also a wonderful way of just sort of connecting. And I'm also interested, before we kind of open the chat, Cathi, we were talking about how during this really specific time at the moment in sort of global history, where people in COVID and in lockdown have been reconnecting with photos, there's been more people applying. And I'm also interested in how we as professional organisers, so we saw your website with people, and how photo organisers, how their businesses are changing, you know, because we're able to, I'm not a certified photo organizer, I just do it in my own time and enjoy it. But, you know, for those certified, they will take projects on, won't they? And they will do them in their homes and then return them. And this is something which is you can do at the moment. Yeah. So this is a possibility, isn't it? Cathi, can you maybe talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, it's been growing. I mean, our members are just so busy, and most of them, it's just amazing, right? Because with now technology, so a lot of members actually will do Zoom meetings with their clients. So if they, you know, using COVID protocols, again, if we're dealing with printed, it's very easy with digital photos. You use something TeamViewer and you go into people's computers and you can literally, you know, organize their digital photos. But with printed, they'll, you know, maybe do either have them shipped or do a drop off in a parking lot, you know, with masks and gloves and, you know, socially distanced. And then it's really interesting. It's not a mystery of what people take photos of, and it's not hard for a professional to actually know. Once you do a good intake interview with a family member, they can look at those photos and make these decisions for you. It's not that, I mean, people don't understand. It's really not that hard. And it's actually really fun. If you're a person who likes puzzles and you like people and you like stories, it's a wonderful joy to go through somebody's photo collection. And then a lot of our members will joke, like, I know their stories better than they do, because they spend so much time, they get immersed in the project and they get to know, they interview the different family members, and a lot of times they can do it again through Zoom and things, and then present back a well-organized collection. So it is a growing field. We need more, we don't have enough members in many ways. And we do a lot of, you know, we do all the training and support, and we keep creating better workflows. So the workflows that I came up with when I first started this, we have much smarter members at this point who have improved those significantly, because it's just taken on a new life of its own. So we talk a lot about proper workflow, charging, you know, making it affordable, you know, make it it's a great living. It's a great way to, another revenue stream to add to your business or whatever you're doing, but also to make it worth the time and investment for the client, right? So that's, at the end of the day, we want really happy clients. And they usually are. A lot of our members say most clients cry when they present back their finished projects to them, because they'll uncover photos that they never saw. And, you know, pictures of grandparents and things like that is a real gift.
Cathi, can you give us an idea of pricing?
Oh, that's always a big dilemma, right? It varies by the professional, but usually it's either usually project based. So based on, it's hard to do it always in the specific hours. Like when you're going into somebody's home and you walk in at 10 and you leave at 11, it's a clear amount of time. So half day projects, full day projects, usually priced the same as professional organizers, whatever the standard is in your community of a service-based business, whatever the hourly fee a service provider charges.
So in the UK, that's about £40 an hour.
Yep.
Ish.
So that
is that right, Elaine, Clara? 40, 50?
Yeah, 40, 50, yeah.
Yeah.
So they would work with you then based on, you know, maybe this is you know, if I work in a 4-hour time block, most people can't do much more than 4 hours of this before they need a break, because it's tiring even for the client. So, you know, maybe do X number. It takes a little longer. The process usually isn't done in a day or two. This is definitely maybe a month. It can take a while for these projects to get completed, and they're usually done in stages, right? So if a professional is going to come in and you don't want to do the gathering, they do the gathering, that's one piece. But you can break it into project pieces. So if you've done all the gathering, they can come in and do the assessment. and then do a really good inventory. So they were, you have 7 blue albums, 15 tapes, document exactly what you have, and then walk you through the process of what at the end project, what it looks like by the end, right? So it's a step-by-step process, and you're, as the client, you're in the process. As the professional, we teach a lot about these best practices and communication, and because when you take something away and you're working behind the scenes, the client can feel like, well, what are they doing? So it's important to document, the process, so they understand that this is taking time and why.
Cathi, can I just say, I love that sign behind you. Does it say everything is reoutable?
Figure-outable. It's everything is figure-outable.
I thought it said everything is reoutable, meaning that everything can move on. Okay. Well, can I say it's been a pleasure to meet you, and I'm inspired with your methods, and I'll have to say goodbye to everyone for now because I've got a child to collect. So I'll say goodbye, and thanks everyone.
Nice meeting you, Claire.
Okay.
Goodbye, Clara. Have a great week. See you next week. There we go. That's working with a couple of kids and a dog and a cat.
Yeah,
But she did get some very nice Valentine's cards made from recycled photos. I showed the viewers earlier, Cathi. This is what I made as a kid for my dad, and I made one for my mum as well. It's a little address book.
Oh.
So I cut out all photos of my dad's friends and family. And that was sort of my beginning of, I suppose, filmmaking or photo montaging. So, and he's not let it go.
I did that on a piece of wood with I think I still might have kept that when I was like in high school. I would, and I cut out all these shapes of my friends, and I shellacked it pasted it on there and things. So that's so funny. I was always that person in the family, and the friends. Yeah.
And have we covered how, like, what about sort of digital platforms? Like, this is whole new. So I've got, I think, 4,000 photos in my on my computer here, and that's too many for my head. It's too many for my head.
That's a small number compared to most. Okay, what do you have
it's
up
small
in
compared to, but I suppose I am quite good at cutting it down. But it's still 4,000 is still too many for my head.
Yeah.
I know Elaine you used to go through every month and create these photo books, didn't you?
I still do. Yeah, I do that every month. Yeah.
Digital uploading.
And that way I upload onto one of these digital book things, and then I get a printed copy, and then I can delete from my phone. So I have it here, and it's small and thin. I think I've got about 3,500 photographs on my coffee table, but they're in books. They're in the wee tiny thin books. There's maybe 4 or 5 photographs on the one little page, and I just do it every month.
Wow, that's amazing. You're a rare bird. You must be an organizer. A declutterer. Declutterer.
She is a rare bird, absolutely.
That's a great plan. Digital, just some quick tips on digital is just delete. Like once a week, or you're in the grocery store line or waiting out in the car with your child to come out of it, is just open up that camera roll and start deleting. And then you can also heart or star or put in albums your favorite photos right off the bat, so then you can quickly search for them. We know with geotagging and facial recognition, the technology is going to get easier to find things. Like right now, right, I can put dog on my phone and pull, and every photo of ever I've taken of my dog is going to show up. But it goes back to that same issue though of how many is too many, and where are the stories going in that. So even if you but the first step really is being merciful, just deleting and then backing up. Many people do not know how to back up their photos. Well, you mentioned about realizing your YouTube channel wasn't backed up, right?
Backed up.
Yeah,
still isn't.
And best practices, we recommend that you keep your backup on a external hard drive.
What's my term? Belt and brace. That's what I tell all my clients, and I haven't done it for my YouTube for these shows. But yeah, belt and brace.
Because you don't want to rely on the cloud as your only backup place. I mean, it's just rights change. There's just too many unknowns there. So if you can, so best practices, one is delete as much as you can, and then also at least get an external hard drive attached to and download the photos, or make sure that you have the photos that you care most about stored safely, not on your computer in case you're, they can be on your computer, but they should also be on a backup of an external hard drive. So that's really important.
Now that Elaine,
about this, we have courses. I don't know if you want, but we have a Photo Management Academy. So we have a basic printed photo organizing made easy, digital photo organizing DIY, which is taught by one of our expert members. She goes through Apple Photos, Google Photos. She takes you through that whole process. And we also have my book is really more focused on printed photos, but I wrote a book, Photo Organizing Made Easy, that you can purchase through Amazon.
That sounds brilliant. I'll put the references when I get this video onto YouTube. I'll put them in the description, so people can click on them, the course and the website and stuff. But Elaine, it's now 10 to 3, and we have to cover our rule of 5, the power of 5. Do we have an idea for the power of 5 related to photos?
Well,
what are we going to ask our viewers to do? Yeah, better go over what this power of 5 is.
Okay. Our power of 5 is firstly, do I?
And what have you done to your finger?
Well, I've been in the loft, Sam. So, excuse my plaster, but my power of 5 is, do I really need this, which is the first thing. And the second power of 5 is, do I really want this? And that's what we want to keep saying to people, as they reach forward for things. Do I really need this? And maybe if they're sorting, do I really want this? So this can be related to your photographs, of course. And maybe our power of 5 today is that maybe you have a look around, and can you spend 5 minutes gathering some photographs together and sorting through them? Or is there 5 photographs that you really want to make sure are on display, so you need to declutter an area so that you can see those 5 photographs? Because remember, less is more. So that can be our power of 5 this week, either 5 minutes to declutter some photographs, or 5 photographs that you really want to display properly. Okay?
Love it. And pictures not on a postcard, but yeah, if you do either of the two, then please do message us and let us know, and maybe send a picture in or something like that to some digital platform or something. Get in touch with one of us. Elaine does Instagram. I do telepathy. So yeah, we can. They will come through. I would really like to say a big thanks to Cathi for coming on the show. But Elaine, are there any other questions from our viewers, or can we ramble for a bit longer?
There are not so many questions. One question was, what do you do if you've not got family that you can pass your photographs on to? And I think some of the people who are on the chat have actually come up with some quite good ideas, which was like, you could maybe donate them to organizations where they can use them as art projects, or to maybe to a local historical group if there's visual, of the area, things like that. We've also got one of your photo organisers who's just come on there. Nicola Austin has said that she has just joined the photo managers and is working towards an accreditation. So welcome to Nicola for watching today.
Where is she?
I don't know where Nicola is, but she has just said that she's really looking forward to the orientational Zoom call later this evening.
Today, yeah. Mm-hmm. Today. Member orientation, yep.
Yeah, so that's
orientation on Zoom. Is that like, where's the waiting room and where's the mute button?
We have so many resources for our members that we do a new member orientation, walk them through where all the resources are on our website. So that's a big part of that.
She's based in Brighton. She's just told me there she's based in Brighton.
Oh, next to our guest last week, Tilo. Tilo lives in Brighton.
Yeah, exactly. Hey. Yeah. So yes.
Oh, well, we wish her all the best. All the best for the course.
Even my thumb with the plaster on. Yeah. So good. Yeah, it's been interesting today.
It's been really interesting. Well, so if you want to connect with us, there is a Clutter Chat Facebook page, and there's a Clutter Chat Facebook group as well, which you can join as well and continue these discussions with. And for those that don't know, Clutter Chat is a charity which began in Scotland, And we look to seek the relief of people who suffer because of clutter, offering support, advice and assistance, and to raise awareness, which is what Clutter Talk Live is about. And we've both been, everyone on screen are just sort of so excited to talk about the global issues and thinking local, acting global. Or the other way around, it was thinking global, acting local. I think it works either way. I'm just getting so excited. Next week, we have Tanya Lewis, who is an eco-organiser from Melbourne, Australia. And can we all just sort of, I mean, Cathi, it's quite early for you, but not that early. It's kind of nice breakfast time.
Yeah.
Tanya's calling in at, I think, 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'll put her wee website as well in the references, but she's eco-organiser, so she'll have a lot more thoughts actually about what to do with photographs that are bad to burn. So any questions, we can connect with that. So I'd like to give Cathi, thank you very much, from when we first met in London, and then you came to Glasgow on the way to Iona, and hopefully we'll be able to welcome you back with a good old sort of Glasgow Scottish welcome. And so please do feel free to connect and everything else. Elaine, do you have any final words on the matter? Oh, we've got your mindfulness moment. That's what we have. Actually, I'm a terrible host. Cathi, do you have any final words first?
No, this has been great. I love the international concept of this. So, because we are all way more alike than we are different. That's what I love about the work we do. And I think across all ethnic backgrounds, these kind of moments help us remember that as a global community, right? Stories, family, the memories that we care about, trips, whatever. We're all wired that way, and it's important to remember that we really are more alike than we are different. That's my final thought.
Thank you. That's lovely.
And finally, for you, Cathi, we have Chrissy, who's downloading your book at the moment. So
good. Okay.
Go, Chrissy! Go, Chrissy! Don't just download it though, Chrissy. I want you to follow it.
Yep.
Chrissy, I'm coming after you. She's one of my clients, so I'm coming after you.
Elaine, would you like to lead us in a mindfulness moment?
Yeah, I think.
Say thank you to everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for watching. We're just going to do a wee quick 5 minutes mindfulness, or even less than that. So if you don't want to do that, we'd love to see you next week. And if you're switching off now, but we're just going to go on the theme of absorbing what's around us. So let's do. I think it's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 mindfulness. Okay, so if you'd like to just sit and take a nice deep breath in and out, and another one in, and relax into your chair and back out. And now what I'd like you to do is to think of 5 things that you can see. You need to open your eyes, of course, but 5 things that you need to see which are around you, just gently looking around your room. And then 4 things that you can hear at the moment. And then 3 things that you can smell at the moment. And then 2 things that you can feel at the moment. And then finally, 1 thing that you can taste at the moment. And remember that it's good to pause throughout the day. And this is a little exercise that you can do standing in a queue or at the traffic lights or anything like that, but just to take a few moments to reconnect with your environment and your body. We'll see you next week. We hope you can join us next week. Bye.